Are you no longer looking away when Nick Kyrgios starts his antics, or do you now tune into it? Are you getting used to realising, look, this guy's going to say what he wants when he wants?
Yes, to a point. I mean, obviously, I said yesterday I thought he'd walk through Nakashima, and he did. So he's beating players that he's able to beat. This is now the big part of the tournament, quarterfinals and semi-finals. So we'll see how this combustible character, that's probably revelling in the notoriety that he's achieving, and revelling in the opportunity to push back against any sort of regime that wants to have a level of appropriacy about his conduct. We'll see. His tennis is undoubtedly at times outstanding. His ability is wonderful. There's no doubt about it. As a tennis player, I'm not interested in the stances he wants to take and how indulged he wants to be, or how he wants to react to questions from the media that make him even more infamous.
Yeah.
But his tennis, if he wins this tournament because his tennis is outstanding, it's not about redemption. It's about the fact he's actually won something of meaning.
Sure.
I don't think he will. But I think that right now the story is, and I think most sensible people are universally aligned on the fact that there is a code of conduct within reason. Nobody wants robots. Nobody wants proles. Everybody wants people that have passion and commitment and expression and a bit of uniqueness. What they don't want is outright anarchy, and he represents a pushing up against that line. For his own interests.
I didn't know it, Simon. He's beaten Nadal 3 times, once at Wimbledon.
Oh, yeah.
He's beaten Djokovic a couple of times as well. You have to think he'll take care of unseeded Christian Garin, the Chilean.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden, before we know where we are, he's in a semi-final.
Well, the pressure's building on him because the expectation level is increasing, because these games are ones he's expected to win now. He possibly wasn't expected to beat the number 4 seed, and ultimately he plays in a certain way. He was expected to win yesterday, and he played that way. The pressure will be building. If he wins this tournament, it'll be because of his tennis and not because of the backdrop of his behaviour.
Yeah.
But to overcome Nadal, maybe, because Nadal is at a certain stage in terms of his fitness. So maybe Djokovic is a whole different box of fish. And Djokovic in a Grand Slam is a completely different dynamic. So notwithstanding it all, he played well yesterday, Kyrgios.
He did. Everybody's having their say on Kyrgios. Pat Cash, former Wimbledon winner, of course, himself.
He said the same as me, didn't he?
He
used
did.
The word cheating,
He's brought tennis to the lowest level I can see as far as gamesmanship, cheating, manipulation, abuse, aggressive behaviour to umpires. And then the real fireworks always seem to start when Kyrgios shapes up to the media at Wimbledon post-match. So he wins yesterday, and then one of the members of the media put it to him that maybe his dress code isn't everything it should be.
We all know the Wimbledon dress code rules are very strict. Competitors must be dressed in suitable tennis attire that's almost entirely white, and this applies from the point at which the player enters the courts around.
Yep.
Why then would you walk onto centre court with bright red trainers on and do an interview in a red cap?
Because I do what I want.
So you're above the rules?
No, I'm not above the rules.
So what is it? They don't apply to you?
I just like wearing my Jordans.
But there are rules specifically against that. The referee, I don't want to spoil the surprise, but the referees are going to be speaking to you about it.
That's okay.
Afterwards, and that's okay.
I'll wear some triple whites tomorrow.
But that's fine then. So everyone else in both draws follows.
But no one else, even after Wimbledon, like no one else really walks with Jordans on the court.
Okay, Matt, sorry, we're going to...
But sorry, I'm just sorry to say, Nick's just moaned about the controversy that surrounds him.
I haven't moaned. I love it.
You've laughed it off, so that's all part of it, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's more attention for me. What's that saying? Any publicity is good publicity, right?
If you say so.
Okay.
Keep doing you then, champion.
He's right, though, isn't he? I mean, they're asking loading questions. If people want to stop Nick Kyrgios, it's not difficult. If they believe that he's transgressing rules, it's upon the tournament. It's not upon anybody else. His behaviour, if it's deemed to be acceptable and breaches rules, consequence him. If it doesn't, shut up. It's as simple as that. He is actually enjoying this, and so would I if I was in his shoes. If I had his disposition and his particular persuasion about how the view of the world, and maybe he feels galvanised by it.
You're not with him in the dress code, though. That's important to you. You're a traditionalist. You love Wimbledon.
I'm with the fact that there is an element. I think it has to evolve, and I understand that there is tradition, and tradition at times needs to be upheld. And I'm not some generational old fart that sits there with a view that things can't change. I do believe there's a value in Wimbledon. I do believe there's a value in certain traditions. I do believe traditions should also evolve, and we've changed traditions. We don't have the middle Sunday off anymore. We now have a roof there that gets put over the top of centre court, and so on and so forth. And these are practical evolutions. If we want to maintain the status of a tournament that is universally accepted as the slam of all slams, then it needs to retain some of its prestige. And if that nitwit wants to walk onto court with his Jordans and they transgress the protocol of the tournament, consequence him. And if it doesn't, don't consequence him.
Right.
And if journalists are giving him ones to swing at, he's having great fun because the journalists are looking for the bite, looking for the sound bite, and he's giving it to them. But he's actually mocking them. He's mocking the journalists. And I wouldn't want to be a journalist, and I wouldn't want to give him that oxygen. I would want to talk solely about his tennis, because what we're doing is we're steering him into the controversy, so he gives us the controversy. Really and truly, if we don't want the controversy from him, dial the narrative down, talk about his tennis and sling him off out of the press conference.
No, but talking about his tennis is one thing. This sideshow's going on in the background, and they're right to bring it up because he's been a hypocrite here. Because on one hand, he accuses Tsitsipas of rule breaking at the weekend and brings that up publicly and to the umpire. Yeah. And when one member of the media says yesterday, in terms of dress code, you're breaking the rules.
He can bring up what he wants.
So it's hypocrisy.
He can bring up what he wants. It's incumbent upon the officials to regulate the game.
I agree with you.
And to control the game. It's not difficult. It's really easy.
Yeah.
If they want to stop Nick Kyrgios, he'll love it. If he gets defaulted out of a tournament, he'll love it.
Yeah.
Irrespective of whether it's a Grand Slam opportunity to win it, because as you quite rightly say, as he says, there's only one thing worse than people talking about you. It's probably people not talking about you.
We were running a poll. I popped it out on my Twitter just before we came on air already. I mean, it's motoring along in minutes. 3,500 people have voted. Do you want Kyrgios to win Wimbledon? 61% say yeah. 39% say no thanks.
But that's fine, because there's 61% of people that turn on tennis once every 2 weeks, go onto the tennis court, so you can't get a tennis court during July and August, and the rest of the year tennis courts are empty, and it's a show. And Kyrgios right now looks like he's sticking it to the man. Yeah, he's sticking it to the man. This drudgery, this antiquated, draconian old tournament full of old farts sitting up in the royal box. But that's not what it represents. It represents a really prestigious tournament, and there does need to be an element of protocol. And if Kyrgios doesn't want to observe that, that's fine. He can behave as abominably as he wants, right? And it should be incumbent upon Wimbledon to go, that will do, Mr. Kyrgios. Here's your first fine. Here's your first points penalty. Here's your second points penalty, and here's your default. Off you go.
See, people are going with him, Simon. In that poll, 61% want him to win it. CJ on Twitter, oh dear, he wore red trainers. Someone get the old Bill to drag him off the court. This is pathetic. He's box office. People watch him. Honestly, tennis should feel lucky they've got Kyrgios around in this tournament. I mean, he's swaying public opinion. People are with him.
But that's fine. Everyone's entitled to an opinion.
Simon, as far as all the empty seats are concerned, I still maintain it's such a bad look for Wimbledon. And how come it's happened? So this is how it's happened. The start time in centre court's been pushed back to 1:30 from 1 o'clock. With post-match on-court interviews around 20 minutes between matches and a potential break to close the roof. So if you get a ticket for centre court now, Simon, you're in there from some ungodly hour in the morning all the way through potentially to 9 p.m. and beyond.
Terrible hardship sitting in there. But the point is that...
So people leave their seats.
You must be in favour of this, because this is broadcaster-driven. You must be in favour. You want cameras inside the dressing room to give us the next version of the broadcasters are dictating. Why are we interviewing players on a court after every single game? We interviewed players after they won a tournament. Now, because it makes broadcasting content, now we're interviewing every single Tom, Dick and Harry after they've won a game.
So during that interview, people get up, leave their seats, and then don't go back.
And because broadcasters are running sport. And I say to you regularly, there is a point where you draw the line between allowing the broadcasters to dictate the events and ultimately the content being fit for the purpose it was put in place for in the first place. Now, of course, there's 17,000 people, or however many sit in centre court, and there's hundreds and thousands of people around the world watching it via BBC television. So with that in mind, which audience has more prevalence? The guy sitting in the court that has the privilege of being able to be an LTA member and has got a debenture on a seat and is very privileged to be there, or the guy sitting in his front room somewhere in the far-flung parts of the world? It's a balancing act, but this is what broadcasting does. It takes the sport, it turns it into a broadcasting commodity. And if the sport wants to allow that to happen, this is what you get, empty seats. So we can't sit there and say, it's not a good look. Well, it's a good look that broadcasting created.
But you constantly say to us it's a blue ribbon event.
It is a blue ribbon event.
So why doesn't Wimbledon do something about this?
Because it's jumped.
In other words, start talking to the broadcasters and get the seats filled.
Well, it's got nothing to do with the broadcasters about the seat filling. It's to do with their own protocols about how they think that the game should be set up in conjunction with the broadcasters. Why are we having this ridiculous spectacle of everybody that wins a game gets interviewed afterwards?
Yeah.
I tell you why, because it's broadcasting content.
It's not as if they say anything in the interviews,
I thought it was reserved. What you basically do is you take these interviews, you turn them into something that's run of the mill, rather than these special interviews that actually someone's won something, someone's lost something in a big final,
and someone says something.
And someone says something. Now we've got everybody from the first round up being interviewed, and I think it diminishes the content.
So are you with Kyrgios or are you against him? Do you want him to win Wimbledon? It's an interesting one this morning. 8-10-89, 60% of you say want him to win it. And there's Anders as I head to a break. Nick Kyrgios, you're a legend. They're going on about you wearing red Jordans, archaic traditions. Just put your head down, get on with it. Deal with the loaded questions. You are hilarious. Everybody, it seems to be heading towards Camp Kyrgios. Are they?
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.